What makes the perfect Uchiha? Is it the power of the eyes? Is it the legacy of their clan? Or is it their heart? The heart that loves so deeply, according to Tobirama. The heart that trembles at the thought of loss. Join me in today's newest Naruto Explained video, where we're going to be taking a deep dive into why Sarada's controversial Mangekyo Sharingan awakening and her most recent reawakening might be one of the most beautifully done evolutions of any Uchiha in the entire Naruto franchise. And I know that's going to piss some people off, but I stand on business with this. This is a story of love, grief, and self-doubt and identity. It proves without a shadow of a doubt that Sarada may be the Uchiha that the clan was always meant to become. Also, if you haven't checked out the chapter review for Two Blue Vortex chapter 21, definitely do so, because there was a lot of love that was packed into the script, and the chapter review editor really took his time on that one. Also, if you're into One Piece, don't forget to check out my new video on the Everything One Piece Explained channel, where we break down the Pika Pika no Mi Devil Fruit. And over on the Anime Explained channel, formerly known as KRYPTONIAN SAIYAN, we have a new video that should make Fire Force fans very happy as well. Just literally got that back from the editor that worked on that video, and it is safe for anime only fans of that series too. So what we have to do now is we have to look at the setup, the tragedy, in particular the awakening of tragedy itself. Sarada's first Mangekyo Sharingan awakening, it wasn't just a power-up, it was a masterclass of internal conflict mirroring external chaos, and it is something that I do believe that went undervalued by a lot of fans until we got this most recent chapter, and Ikimoto had to spoon feed it for the people that are still focused on you have to see your best friend die, which is not the case with the Mangekyo Sharingan. So let's rewind for a second. So Kawaki, driven by his obsession and his delusion, he nearly kills Boruto and Sarada. During this moment, Sarada felt like she was helpless. Boruto got his eye damaged trying to protect her. Everyone was chasing after Kawaki. She couldn't do anything. The omnipotence ability, it rewrote everyone's memories. It turned Boruto from a hero of the village into a traitor who's being hunted down. And it made Kawaki into the beloved son of Naruto. Everyone except for Sarada and Sumire in that moment, as far as Konoha Shinobi, everyone had their memories altered. Sarada, she was basically left alone, aware of the truth, and she's watching people she trusted, people she loved, including her own father, turn on Boruto, not realizing that they were under the guise of omnipotence, not realizing that they were hunting down a kid who helped save the village 2 times before his 13th birthday. And then she hears that Naruto, her idol, the man who she said she wished was her father, the man who inspired her dream to become Hokage, he was dead. We as the audience knew that Naruto was alive. That's what we call dramatic irony. But Sarada, she did not know. In fact, when Sarada realized what was happening, she said it was too cruel that Boruto was always having to shoulder everything alone. And in that moment of helplessness, in that moment of love, in that moment of utter emotional devastation, in that moment of complete bone-crippling trauma, Sarada awakened her Mangekyo Sharingan. It was not for revenge, it was not for power. It was directly because of trauma. It was directly because she needed to save the boy that she loved and didn't realize it from the very man who helped gave her life. That's the beauty of that whole situation. Let me restate that. To save the boy who she loved but didn't realize it from the very man who gave her life. The 2 most important men in her life were about to enter into a death match, and Boruto would have lost at that moment in time. There's a thematic brilliance here. That's why it is perfect writing. Think about what Itachi said way back in the war. He said that those who cannot acknowledge themselves, they will eventually fail just like I did. Which, yes, even the almighty perfect Itachi that people like me love, one of my first Naruto tattoos is probably going to be an Itachi tattoo. Like I've said before, I'll let you guys choose what that first Naruto tattoo is once we get to 650,000 subscribers. However, here's where that writing truly shines. Itachi Uchiha, the mirror by which every Uchiha is basically measured in the fandom for the most part. He failed to accept himself and his own emotional truth. He sacrificed everything from peace in order to make sure that the Uchiha didn't rebel against the village, in order to make sure that his brother was still alive. His goal was to have Sasuke become a hero by killing Itachi, and then he had a backup plan. If Sasuke ever went on the wrong path, he assumed Sasuke would take his eyes, and he had the Kotomatsu Kami Crow built into Naruto. That way he could brainwash Sasuke into protecting the village. But by taking all these steps, Itachi denied his own pain. He denied his own connection. He denied any faith he could have had in Sasuke by his own words. His words, in so many ways, even though they were never spoken to Sarada, they were a warning to Sarada, and Sarada has listened. It's very important to realize that Sarada's story is not just a rinse and repeat of she's a girl who wants to be Hokage just like Naruto. If you're saying that, respectfully, you do not understand the character of Sarada, and that's fine. That's what videos like this are for. Not to toot my own horn, but that's what these videos are for. Sarada's story is so much about internal validation when you sit down and think about it. She has long believed that in order to become Hokage, she had to be calm, she had to be rational, she had to be emotionally detached. She had to bury her love for Boruto, love that she is clearly still trying to figure out. Even Sumire was able to clock it and say, I know you have your feelings, but you didn't consider my feelings. And we're not even gonna get into the shipping stuff. I don't personally care, but it's important to this video. And it's also to hide fear. It's to deny pain. And a large part of that is because she has built Naruto, rightfully so, onto this super untouchable pedestal. She believes that in order to become Hokage, she has to basically be this perfect being that she has Naruto built up to be. When in reality, as they say, never meet your heroes. Naruto's not scum, but the reason they say never meet your heroes is that your heroes are often human just like you. They are flawed, they have imperfections. Sarada is looking at Naruto through these rosy eyes because of what happened in Naruto Gaiden, fine and dandy, but a lot of that has impacted her in terms of how she views her path to be Hokage. The Mangekyo Sharingan, it does not awaken from stoicism. It awakens from overwhelming emotion, which Sarada had. And in that moment, in that awakening, Sarada, she chose to embrace her emotions. She cried. She begged her father to stop, to protect Boruto at all costs. That choice wasn't a weakness, it was her strength. It was a vulnerability. It was a reflection of what we saw Tobirama say in terms of how the Uchiha clan feel love much deeper than others. We saw Sarada Uchiha maturing, and because this is a battle shonen, there's a tendency for fans to look at a moment like that, see a character vulnerable, especially a female character, and say, she just cried and said, "Daddy, please save my boyfriend." Disingenuous argument, because it completely ignores all the other context. It's also important to realize that this reawakening was basically her doing what Itachi said. She was choosing her feelings. She was acknowledging herself like Itachi said you had to do. Think of it from this perspective. Think about Sarada's fight with Ryu, the Yodo death scene in that speech, and all those emotional flashbacks we just got in this chapter. Now fast forward to Sarada's reawakening of her Mangekyo Sharingan. It becomes even more poetic when you take all that and you bake it into it. That's why during the chapter review, I spent so much time explaining how Ikimoto was threading all that stuff together, because it directly reflects the theme of this arc, and this arc's theme is directly tied into her Mangekyo Sharingan. After barely surviving against Ryu, her Mangekyo, it was almost on the verge of failing her. Allow me to explain what I mean. She completely destroyed Ryu. However, when you look at her character, there was a moment where inside of her own mind, even before their battle started, she was paralyzed again, not by enemies, but by her own fear of losing control, the fear of feeling too much, the fear that her love for Boruto is a weakness that disqualifies her from being Hokage. That's why Yodo's speech before she reawakened her Mangekyo, Yodo, her ally, dying, is so important. Before Yodo died, she said something very powerful to Sarada. Don't be afraid of those feelings inside of you. Sarada had to replay all that stuff inside of her head and go back through all those emotions before the fight started. Grapple with that stuff, overcome those feelings by accepting those feelings, because that allowed her to go into battle truly understanding who she is. It was a crescendo when you look at how everything was built. If you're a music head, you get that term. If you don't, look it up. Thank me later. Now, Yodo's final words, it hits where it hurts, because for Sarada's character, the struggle, it was never just about enemies. It was always with herself. And when her Mangekyo reawakens, it's not from grief, but it's from a conscious acceptance. This isn't an accidental power. It is a chosen power. It is a controlled power. Most importantly, it is an earned power. Sarada learns that her love, her fear, her compassion, they do not make her weak. Instead, they make her worthy of becoming Hokage. This is why Sarada is the perfect Uchiha. Think about all your memories of the Uchiha clan: Madara, Sasuke, Itachi, Obito. And now think of Sarada. The Uchiha clan has always walked a knife's edge when it comes to love and madness. Madara lost himself in ambition because he viewed the world as being too cruel, and he needed to take an absolutist mind state to try and change it. Obito lost himself in grief. Itachi lost himself in guilt. Sasuke lost himself in vengeance. But Sarada, she is the one who has found true acceptance. She didn't shut down her heart. She opened it like Itachi said he failed to do. She doesn't run from pain. She's sitting in the pain, just like Itachi said he did not do. And she does not chase love as a power. She protects it, something that Itachi tried to do and failed. That's what makes Sarada the ideal evolution of the Uchiha clan. And when you get into her Mangekyo Sharingan, because of it being called the Oharume, the mythology behind her, Amaterasu, and the divine feminine power is what you have to look at. So I want you to think about what you know about Amaterasu. You've probably obviously heard me talk about Amaterasu a lot these last 3 years over here on the channel, so we'll keep this brief. But in Shinto mythology, Amaterasu, the sun goddess, is a divine being who once looked at herself and she locked herself away into a cave after being wounded by her brother's cruelty. Her retreat, it plunged the world into darkness until the gods like Ameno Uzume, they lured her back by reminding her of her own light. Think about everything that just happened with Sarada. She mirrors this exactly. She feels pain and she retreats into doubt. But when she sees others suffering, when she feels the weight of love and loss, she steps into the light again. Like Amaterasu, Sarada is not just a wielder of fire, she is a source of it. That's why her eyes, being Amaterasu's pattern, are so important. She doesn't burn internally to destroy, she burns to protect. Her Mangekyo is not a curse of hatred, it is a blessing of love itself. Sarada Uchiha is not the strongest Uchiha because she inherited a powerful bloodline. She is the strongest because she redefined what it means to carry that legacy, and her strength is a reflection of it. She is the Uchiha who loved and did not break because of love. She is the Uchiha who protected and did not lose herself as a result. She is the Uchiha who awakened her eyes not through witnessing the death of a loved one, but rather through life and through trauma. Very similar to how her father Sasuke awakened his Mangekyo Sharingan through the trauma, having learned the truth about Konoha and Itachi. It was not him killing his brother that did it. If that was the case, Sasuke would have got it immediately like Itachi did when Shisui died. It was a compound effect, like father, like daughter. That's the beautiful synergy of it that, unfortunately, because we have some knuckleheads on YouTube who say that if it's about love, then banging Boruto would have awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. That's bullshit. Her reawakening is very similar to Sasuke. It is trauma-based and it is rooted in love itself. That's what makes her reawakening so important, because it goes back to Itachi's statement. Look at it from this perspective. Itachi said that those who cannot acknowledge themselves will eventually fail, but Sarada chose to finally see herself. Just as her Mangekyo Sharingan was now open to the world, Sarada's own eyes are open to herself. The Sharingan, the Mangekyo Sharingan, the eyes that reflect the heart, they now reflect Sarada Uchiha herself. Obviously, if you enjoyed this video and this deep dive into the beauty of Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan, we'll probably title this Sarada's Mangekyo From Tears to Power, depending on what I get a score for in terms of the app I'm using to rate thumbnails. Obviously, consider subscribing and commenting down below Sarada Perfect Uchiha if you agree or if you disagree. In the meantime, click here to watch this video from Naruto Explained, click up top to watch that One Piece video, or click here on the right to watch that Fire Force video that I mentioned earlier.